We have playing time issues. We have lineups. We have great performances. We have a lot going on these first few days. And the goal here is to identify some stuff, make some notes, get kind of a starting point, and monitor from here. We're going to dive right in. I'm just double checking my microphone because I've had like so many issues with it. All right, we're good. Let's roll into today's content, and we're going to talk about I have about 20 or so things I'm going to touch on throughout this stream. So if you drop into the comment section, I will answer them live. I have to share my screen. Goodness, it's almost like I've never done this before. All right, let's start here with Brice Turang because this is my guy. We all know this is my guy this year. Obviously, off to a strong start. But the appealing part about Brice Turang is the speed and the batting average. We knew we were going to be there. He has 2 stolen bases, hitting 357 right now with a BABIP that's sustainable, 333. Given the speed, Brice Turang can sustain the batting average, even not the 357 batting average, but the BABIP. However, look at the strong plate discipline. He makes a ton of contact. He walks a lot. He gets on base. He doesn't strike out much. And there's a little bit of pop there. We saw the grand slam the other day. Brice Turang is a guy. It's almost like Brice Turang can be what we wanted Ezekiel Tovar to be. The only issue is right now, which can change. Turang is on a platoon, so he will be strong side platoon singing against lefties at the moment for Owen Miller and Mike Brosseau. But with that said, I'm looking more into Turang real quick. I want to see the plate discipline. Yeah, so it's as good as it's advertised at the top. When you break down the strikeout rate and the walk rate, it makes sense. When you have a 5.7% swing strike rate compared to the league average 11.8%. And again, very early look. I want to emphasize that these looks are beyond early, that this stuff's going to change drastically. I mean, he has 100% Z contact rate. That's not going to sustain, but this could suggest that maybe he's a high 80s, low 90s Z contact type, which that's up there with like the Luis Arias of the world, the Brendan Donovans. If he can keep up this type of contact while being this patient, the results will come. He can even hit his way up that lineup because I don't know how long Jesse Winker's leash is going to be batting second. So if Turang continues this type of production, maybe we can see him move up the lineup. But again, it is very early. I want to emphasize that because we can't take away a whole lot from these numbers. It's just interesting to see and to lay that groundwork and that foundation in terms of what to potentially expect. I want to look at his ground ball rates and stuff real quick. Let's see. So where are we? Did I pass it? I did. So this is what I love to see too. Look at this. Only a 23.1% ground ball rate. This is a guy who was able to hit in Double-A in 2021 under 40% ground ball rate. If he can keep elevating the ball like this, the line drives especially, it's not going to sustain the 30% line drive rate. But if you can stay in the 20% range, that batting average will further be a positive production for him. And he's an all fields hitter. Again, playing more into that batting average floor he can offer. So Turang does offer that safe, solid floor. The power isn't a plus, but it's not a zero, something I've been arguing about or been mentioning all offseason long. And I haven't seen, so I just got a question in the chat from Dominic, the Beatty injury. I haven't seen the update. Let's look it up real quick, see if there is any update, because I know you heard it while swinging. I retweeted the video yesterday. And for those listening, again, we're live on YouTube, youtube.com/@GTFantasy. Subscribe and catch up on all the video stuff. But sorry, I'll share the screen too. This is where you go to Sports Edge, which, wrong one. I got you on my face right now. 1 second. Got to pull this back up. Great audio to be able to do this, by the way. So we're going to share this screen. So this is where I just go. It's the old Roto World. It's just for quick news. Oh, we're searching for Beatty. Just to see if anything came up. And I don't want to hear the audio. Removed. Yeah, see, there's no updating here. It says after Wednesday's imaging. So today is what? Today's Wednesday, right? So we should get some news today on Beatty. So the next thing we're going to discuss today is the Braves lineup, what we've been seeing here, because people are worried about Murphy. I just want to discuss the fact that so it's not showing yesterday's lineup, unfortunately, but Murphy has been playing pretty much every other day, and what we have been seeing is d'Arnaud playing every day. As you can see, his name popping up. He's played every day. And let's see yesterday's lineup. I'm going to pull that up real quick. You would think that they would have that updated, but they do not. So Murphy played yesterday. d'Arnaud played again yesterday. So d'Arnaud's played all 5 games. Murphy has played 3 out of 5, with Ozuna finally getting a day off yesterday, even against a lefty. Ozuna's off to a terrible start. I don't foresee Murphy in this slow path to playing time type of deal going on. I think Murphy's going to eventually factor into the lineup more via DH. I think they're trying to give Ozuna a chance to run with it. They like his Ozuna's pop, but we all know Ozuna against righties can be an issue, and he usually crushes lefties. He's been playing all, like I say, he's been playing all year. Got a day off yesterday. I'm going to be. I think they want to see what they have there in him. I don't think Ozuna is going to be a long term fix there. I think they're easing Murphy into the season. You don't go out and trade for Murphy to sit him. He's too valuable behind the plate. Great defender. Great. And that matters. The great defense matters in today's game, especially with the way players are running on the catchers today right now. So I think Murphy's going to be in for more playing time, but it is something we are monitoring. He is playing every other day right now. But Ozuna is Ozuna. He hasn't been off to a strong start. I think he's going to get a little more run before they move on from that. I have a question in the chat. Let's see. It's a long one, so stick with me here. Is the power legit from B. Reynolds? I heard he was swinging a heavier bat in spring training. I may be able to swing him for. I'd rather have a Rosarena than Reynolds, even rest of season. The problem is you have to remember, like guys like Trang, even Reynolds. Not that Reynolds can't have this type of year. He's he has a lot to prove. Reynolds is a guy that he's always underappreciated in drafts. He might overperform in power for once. We'll see. Depends on. I mean, he's obviously taking advantage of what seems to be pitchers having struggles early on. People are saying juice ball, this and that. I think it's too early to say that. I think what we're seeing a lot of, which I mean, there could be a little something to the ball being a little more juice than last year. But what I'm getting at is I think it's more so pitchers adjusting to the rules, having to pitch faster, quicker between pitches and all that. They're missing their spots more. I think hitters are taking advantage of it. Hitters had a long spring for once compared to these shortened springs that we've seen the last couple of years. So I do think that hitters were more ready to enter the year. Pitchers might be struggling early on. I think there's a mix of a little bit of everything going on. Reynolds is a great hitter, one of the best actual overall true hitters in the league, one of the better true hitters in the league. So I think he's taking advantage of it. I do think Reynolds is legit though, but I still would rather have Rosarena over him rest of season. Especially maybe not in a points league if you're playing in a points league or something like that, but in roto formats. Speaking of Rosarena, let's go to the Rays, which again, not updated for yesterday, but the reason why I want to talk about the Rays is Paredes. He has now, let's toggle out lefties. He has played 1 of 3. You don't see the yesterday's lineup was against a righty. He sat 1 of 3 against righties. I don't think he's in a true platoon because he did play 1 recently. However, there is potential for here. The Rays are they're platooning. It looks like Margot's platooning because Margot hasn't. I don't think Margot's started a game against the righty yet. Maybe he has 1 start. Yeah, he has 1 start against the righty out of 3 as well. And Harold Ramirez. I don't know if Ramirez has any. This is how I do my lineup searching. But maybe he has 1 too. Then I guess because he didn't start yesterday either. So these guys are playing less against righties than you might have expected. You have guys like Josh Lowe factoring against righties. You have Luke Raily playing a lot against righties right now, and he hit a couple home runs the other day, so he's going to get some run. They liked him. He had a strong spring. Luke Raily did. He's a very, very deep league rosterable type of guy, not somebody you're going out of your way to roster anything beyond 15s, and even then, matchup dependent. He might not even play against every righty, but he is a guy that is getting full run against righties as of now. I think he started against all 3 right-handed pitchers to this point in the season, has not started against a lefty. And if you look at yesterday's lineup, which I am looking at right now, Raily started yesterday as well. Again, that's on there, but you see Josh Lowe on there. Who you don't see is Paredes, who Taylor Walls has played third base over him against righties twice now. And then you don't see Margot or Ramirez, like I mentioned. Each of those guys only playing 2 of 3. And then you have the same thing happening over here in Toronto for a certain guy. Let me pull up the Blue Jays yesterday's lineup too. I really hate that they didn't update it yet. So Merrifield played against the lefty yesterday, so that's not going to affect this discussion. But with Merrifield, if you look at this, you toggle out lefties. And Merrifield's played 3 of 5, so people might not realize it. But if you take away righties outside of opening day, Merrifield has not played. Biggio has started against both righties. Opening day, you tend to give your starters the first start of the season regardless. So now I'm watching the righties, the usage against righties here. They have Biggio, they have Santiago Espinal against lefties, that's why it's tough. But they have Biggio. For some reason, they feel the need to play him over Merrifield right now. It looks like. And then you have Espinal factoring against righties with Merrifield getting the outfield to give other guys days off and stuff like that. So I'm thinking Merrifield might be on a short side platoon. I'm watching. Let's see if the lineup today. I mean, there's a lot of early games, so maybe we'll get a little more of an outlook today as lineups post. Let's see if they've posted their lineup yet. I do know they're the night game. We're probably not going to have their lineup up before the stream's over, but if we do, we will discuss it. However, Merrifield is on watch right now. He's on on this watch list thing. I have no shares of Merrifield. Wasn't in on him because I was afraid of the playing time. When they first got him last year, he platooned a bit. He played regularly down the stretch, had a solid run to finish the year. But all things considered, he was he was not playing all that often. And that concerned me coming into the year. The price was a little much for me to get in on him. I know the speed's there. However, if the playing time is not, it doesn't matter. Washington is the last. We're going to get into some player talk here momentarily after we talk about Washington. The only thing I want to talk about Washington is if you look at I keep doing first names. Here we go. Let's try this again. Luis Garcia is playing every day. He's going to. He's not off to the best of starts, but if you notice, he is leading off against righties. That is a strong side platoon at the top with Lane Thomas getting lefties, and Lane Thomas playing every day, so he's not platooning like he has like he did at times last year. But Thomas is going to lose some play appearances early on. However, he's off to a better start. I think Thomas can easily take back over full-time leadoff role for a little bit if Luis Garcia can't get going. But as of right now, Garcia has a path to more playing time, more plate appearances, which can have more value in leagues. So just take note of that. Another thing is obviously Candelario. Meneses batting second. Candelario playing just about every day, batting depending on where you bats in the lineup, third, fifth, doesn't matter. Dickerson's out, so Alex Call is in. He's been playing pretty much every day since Dickerson went out. Dom Smith, regardless of matchups, staying in the 3-4 spot. So deeper leagues, if you need a plug and play, Dom Smith is a guy to consider. Robles is also playing every day, but that's because they lack other options, it seems like. Let's move over to Graham Ashcraft. A solid start here from Ashcraft. What we saw him do was feature a 3-pitch mix, lived in the zone a little more than you'd like, but got away with it. And he threw at least 3 pitches 11% of the time, or so it's actually updated to 10.5% since I wrote this. The slider was up. The velo on the slider was up almost 2 miles per hour almost, and it was frustrating because my notes are one thing, but then this is down a little. This is different just because of how things I guess have changed. But the cutter was down in velo, but was it by design? Let's see the movement profile on it if it's changed. The cutter, it doesn't. I'm trying to see compared to last year. Wait, right here. We're gonna get there. Here we go. So the cutter did add drop, and I think it added break. So maybe it's being thrown less. It's not being thrown as hard by design to get more movement on it, which is very, very possible. Just something to consider here. But yes, Ashcraft. And the thing about Ashcraft is he gives up a bunch of hard contact. However, he has it was a over 50% ground ball rate again this year. Did I scroll? I did. So last year, 54%. This year, 52%. Ashcraft is a solid option pretty much across the board. I think he's already universally rostered in 15-teamers. But a guy that if he can sustain that ground ball rate, that matters because his home ballpark is very, very, very just not friendly to pitchers. It's one of the best, if not the best, hitters park in the game right now. Ashcraft, he's going to need to sustain these ground ball rates in order for him not to get hurt by that park. He will have his blow up starts, as will anybody in that park. However, that figure is worth mentioning that he can get away with some of this hard contact he's giving up, but he can't get away with that. That's that sinker right there down in the middle. And then if he's missing his zone with his pitches, he's going to get crushed by good teams. So just something to keep in mind with Ashcraft, but definitely somebody who should be on most mixed league rosters, and a guy that really doesn't need much. Let's talk. We could talk about Springs. What's there to say? The dude looks great. He looked great. It was the Tigers, but the only thing worth mentioning is he featured a new sweeper that he threw 12.3% of the time, strictly against lefties though. So it is an offering against lefties, which is great because it complements the changeup against righties. So Springs having an option, having a go-to pitch against lefties is just another way he's growing as a player. He's obviously dropping the slider in the process. The slider was a pitch he threw 24.8% of the time, only 7.4% of the time. It could be a variation of that. We'll see, because the slider was something he threw more towards righties last year, but it looks like he really is throwing just a different pitch against lefties. The velo is way different on it. The movement profile is going to be different on it as well. He had I think it had a CSW of 40%, and then an overall CSW from that start of 41%, I believe. But again, the Tigers. However, Springs is just taking what he did last year, adding to it. We could be seeing the Rays making yet another star pitcher come out of nowhere. Just something worth mentioning here. Was it Rasmussen? Let's go with Rasmussen. Here we go. Rasmussen. I tweeted about it, so I'm just using my tweet because I'm lazy. The 2 miles per hour less on the cutter, but again, 6 more inches of vertical break on it. So there's a likely give and take here. He's changing up the shape of it, the movement of it, the movement profile of that cutter, which almost makes it more of a sweeper, like that much more vertical. Like I wonder if it's going to be recategorized or if it's just a cutter. But then you have people who watch the game, watch the start more than I did, because I usually try to go back and watch the start. You have someone commenting about how he seems to change speeds on it on purpose, more of a hard cutter than he would tail it. So I guess it is a cutter, and just it averages out to have 6 more inches, all things considered. Maybe it's but it's nice to have that option. It's the same pitch, 2 different ways you could throw it, but he has a sweeper too. So it's not like he doesn't have that option. Maybe somewhere miscategorized, who knows? But he threw, and last year he threw 23% of 4-seam cutter and sweeper. Rasmussen did. Then with less than 5% sinker curve. This year he threw all 5 pitches at least 12% of the time. And that's what I find interesting, is that we have an early potential pitch mix change. Again, we're just keeping this. This is very early information. We're taking notes on these pitch mix changes, on these at new pitches, seeing how they're utilized and seeing if they're actually effective or not. It's too early to tell. And again, another Tigers start, I believe. I could probably check that real quick, but I'm not going to. Moving on to a guy that I find very interesting in Ryan Weathers, just because we've seen him have success before and then got injured. However, it could be short-lived because Musgrove is returning. But what we saw here with Weathers, 1.8 miles per hour on the 4-seam, like he added, but he lost some movement on it. Maybe if it's too straight, that's an issue. Maybe he needs to stop. Maybe he's throwing a little too hard. Maybe take a little off. That way he can get some more movement back on that fastball. However, more velo is never a bad thing. It's just a matter of if it's too straight or not. Fastballs that are too straight can get hit. Ooh, somebody wants to know about Rowdy. I'll make it. Okay, after this, I'll pull up Rowdy's Fangraphs page. We'll take a look. But honestly, it's a week of baseball. I'm not worried about Rowdy Tellez at all. But we'll talk about what's going on early on with him. Too early to overreact to Rowdy. I'm not worried about anybody underperforming, overperforming right now. If anything, we're just looking for things. I'll go take a look at Rowdy, but I have zero concerns. I don't know if that's gonna make you feel any better. Back to Ryan Weathers. He, like I said, the fastball could be straight. Just gotta be careful. He threw a sweeper as well. Shocker, new sweeper. Everyone's doing it. It's almost like the slide. So he took the slider, turned it into a sweeper, and because the slider's gone from last year, he threw it just 16.9% of the time, and of course, there was 5 inches of vertical break added. So again, makes it more of a sweeper than a slider. And there was 2 inches of horizontal break. So I'm guessing from what Savant was showing us on the player profiles, they were comparing the slider to the sweeper most likely, given the fact that he didn't throw a sweeper last year, and they were showing before and afters in terms of like the break. I don't know. Anyway, or maybe that's against overall. I need to double check that. The way they broke it down, they showed 2022 and 2023 data on it. So I was really, I didn't realize it was a new pitch, or maybe again they're recategorizing pitches. I have no idea. I'm not sure, but either way, the reason it was a successful pitch, he had a 40% whiff rate on it, 38.9% whiff rate on the changeup. Was able to utilize both against lefties and righties, but it looks like sweeper a little more towards lefties, giving him another option. My point is Weathers. I would like to see less fastball, more of the other stuff, because the fastball got hit kind of hard. 500 slug against it, a 378 xwOBA against the 4-seam. I would like to see the secondaries thrown more. But again, it could be short-lived in general, considering there's a likelihood that Musgrove is back and he could be the odd man out. Now let's go ahead and pull up an impromptu Rowdy Tellez breakdown. And by breakdown, I mean just an early look at what's going on, because I have zero actual concerns about Rowdy Tellez. I can't stress that enough. Strikeouts are an issue right now, but look at his career strikeout rate. He hasn't struck out over 20%, 20.2% of the time since 2019. I don't think 31.8% is suddenly going to be a thing. He has the home run early on. I expect a lot more of those. Really bad BABIP luck. Yes, he's not a BABIP god by any means, but 182. Come on, he's one of those guys that should gain from the shift ban as well. Tellez is still, he's not barreling the ball yet like he normally does. I know it's kind of like, look at the max exit velocity. He's just not, he just hasn't come around yet. I know it's hard not to overreact, but Tellez is still Tellez. I don't, it's a week of baseball. I'm not trying to be mean about it. I'm just saying, like, you kind of have to sometimes just like give it a chance. If you want to bench him, go for it. I wouldn't, but there's like nothing in his profile really suggesting, like, yeah, he's making less contact, especially on contact, but he's also swinging less. Like, but there's a lot less O contact. Again, he's being uncharacteristic, and it's not like he's hitting this age curve. I think he's like 28. Yeah, he's 28. So Tellez, yeah, I'm trying to find reasons to worry, but you can't. Again, it's, if you drafted him, stay the course, because you drafted him for this reason. He's going to hit for power. He was never a batting average asset. However, he will be better than 182 or whatever I said it was. Just hold tight. I was just hold tight. Now, if we enter May and it's still like this, I get being a little more concerned. At that point, I would probably bench him. But there's a lot of guys. I'm trying to think. There's like, do you suddenly believe that? I think there was like like Gallo's a 300 hitter. Gallo's not a 300 hitter. He got into one of his hot streaks early on, and that's what we're seeing. So it's one of those things, like, there's just wild extremes right now. You gotta roll with the punches and understand that there's a long season ahead of us. It's easy, all off season we prep, and then one slow week or fast week for a player and confirmation bias, or this concern kicks in that shouldn't be there, but it's totally normal. I've been known to overreact in the past. I've gotten a lot better at it. So one guy I want to talk about here, well, not really want to talk about, it's more so like, hey, watch him if he gets some closing, if he gets traded to a place where he can close or takes over. But Aroldis Chapman, the velo is back, and that's kind of the big deal here. Up 2 miles per hour on the four seam. The sinker, it's up 2 miles per hour as well. The slider up 3-4 miles per hour, and then the split finger, I mean, it's up, but he barely throws it. The point being, Aroldis Chapman appears to be pretty back in terms of just having the overall stuff. And we can move on from him. Let's see. I have Carlos Estevez. I meant to bring him up. I guess it doesn't really matter. I was looking at him. He has more of a, so his velocity was down a little bit. Nothing too worrisome or anything, because again, relievers ramp up, all that stuff. He's been fine. He hasn't had a chance to get a save yet, but I think he's clearly the closer. And where is it? It was this slide, I have it in my notes, sorry, the slider. So the slider was down a whole lot in terms of velo. That's a little concerning, but he is throwing it the least. So he looks like he's so far substituting the changeup for the slider this year, and he likes to throw the changeup against lefties. The four seamer all around doesn't matter. He sits with the four seamer. The four seamer is also down a little bit. That was the issue. 1.9 miles per hour on the four seamer. So just wanted to bring that up. And then this, I think it was the slider that had a different movement profile. So yes, so the slider, if you look at it from last year to this year, he added more drop and more more break. Sorry, more vertical movement, more horizontal movement, both ways on the slider. I don't necessarily think that's probably why he's throwing it softer, to get more movement on it. That would make sense to me. Again, it goes back to not all velocity drop is created equal. Estevez could be throwing more of a sweeper type of slider, but again, he's not really throwing it that much. He's really leaning into that fastball early on, which he did last year as well. If you look at Estevez's last year, it's kind of a very similar thing in terms of usage. And actually, he threw, okay, so he didn't really swap the changeup for the slider. I apologize. He's throwing him the same amount of time, but I looked at the way they ordered it on Savant, and they flip flopped them, and I apologize for that. So he's throwing the same. And then if you look at last year, the slider barely was outthrown. He barely threw the slider more than the changeup. I can't talk. I apologize. He's kind of leaning into the same pitch mix. There's no pitch mix change there, but the slider movement was something that caught my attention. I wanted to discuss that. Maybe it'll be more effective with that type of movement. Now we have some quick hitting stuff on the way out here, and so we're gonna share this tab, and we're gonna go back to yesterday's lineups and talk about this real quick. So the Mariners, I just wanted to bring up the fact that 2 straight left-handed pitchers, Jared Kelenic and Colton Wong, have sat. I thought Wong would probably sit, just given how he's been treated in the past. If this team saw this, they have guys like Sam Haggerty, Dylan Moore when he returns should take that role. But Haggerty could gain a second base eligibility. Not to mention he will play against lefties. It looks like going forward. I was kind of surprised Kelenic sat against lefties, not because he is necessarily deserving of starting against lefties, but because of they're DHing Tom Murphy. I don't understand that. If Tom Murphy's better against lefties, why not just let him catch that day? Or I know Pollock will play against lefties. I know Hernandez will play against lefties, and obviously J Rod's playing every day. But I thought there was gonna be a clearer path to playing time against lefties with Trammell out and stuff like that. So we'll see how that goes for Kelenic. But all things considered, it looks like Kelenic and Wong have entered into weak side platoons, and also just a very deep league name to know. Scope has also been sitting against righties for Zach McKinstry, who they went out and claimed, or was it claimed or traded for, or just added after he was cut. So anyway, Zach McKinstry is getting strong side run early on for them. Kepler, he's day to day, so it might not be long term, but we're looking next man up. I could see a situation where Nick Gordon enters the outfield. I know we didn't see that yesterday, but Nick Gordon did lead off while he's out, so it looks like Nick Gordon can get a little bit of run at the leadoff spot. However, Gordon can move to the outfield. They could put Farmer in. Yesterday was Solano for whatever reason, but if they wanted to get Farmer, maybe they're just keeping Farmer for a weak side platoon because Farmer has really only he's only entered games against lefties. He hasn't even, I don't think he's really started a game, but I don't think they faced the lefty yet. That's why they faced one today, so we'll get an idea. So we'll see what's going on there. A guy just to keep a name on deeper leagues, Edmundo Sosa, strong spring, decent start, but he's not really getting the playing time because it's more of a weak side playing time situation. If he enters more of a regular situation, Sosa does have some intrigue potentially. And then you have Braxton Garrett like entering the rotation with Cueto on the IL. Braxton Garrett becomes one of those bigger targets off the waiver wire in 15 teamers. It's the 12 teamers where he's more in the streaming conversation, but in 15 teamers, we saw Garrett be successful over a stretch last year. He could have some appeal beyond just streaming, especially in 15s. So I could see him being a top target for people in fab leagues, like 15 team fab leagues. 12 teamers, again, he's more of the in that fab conversation, in that stash, not fab, not stash, streamer conversation. But what we do have are some injury stashes, guys that just popped in my head. So maybe I'm missing some, but 2 Reds players, because that ballpark is very hitter friendly. So Votto, Senzel, those guys can, they're entering that stash them situation. Same thing with the Minnesota guys, Krylov, Polanco. I think Polanco might be a little farther off. So Krylov becomes a guy that he was already playing in spring training, minor league games right before the season started. So he should be closer to returning. Yes, there's concern there for injuries, but in deeper formats, it goes back to being deeper formats because he's not a guy that you really want in 12s. He has the potential to be difference making off the waiver wire compared to most other names in deeper formats. So just a guy that if he's available in your league, he's probably worth stashing if you have the room for him. I think I hit on everything. Oh, I missed on a guy right here. Where is he? You know what? I swapped this page out real quick. I just want to talk about MacKenzie Gore. MacKenzie Gore is a guy that I'm pulling up his page now. MacKenzie Gore is a guy that leaned more on the fastball than usual, but he always throws the fastball the most. It's just a matter of, oh, it was actually about the same. I thought it was more than I thought it was like in the 50s last year. I apologize. Anyway, I keep apologizing. Maybe I should get it right the first time so I don't have to apologize. 63.4% on the fastball. He did lean on the slider more than the curveball. There's a little bit of a flip there. But again, one game, can't take anything too much away from it. The velocity was right back in place from last year. The velocity on the slider was up, and the curveball was also up. But that's about it. The whiffs were okay on it too. Maybe he can be more effective. The real takeaway was that he was able to be this effective with this mix and with the fastball usage against a really strong Braves team. So if he can sustain this type of success, if he can succeed against those types of guys, what's not to say that he can't have like just an overall solid year. He's creeping into 12 team relevance. I would say he's probably maybe a guy you grab just because the upside's there for Gore. But a guy that's just very intriguing. I doubt many people started him against the Braves, and look what he was able to do. So he should be on everyone's radar just to see if he can carry over that success into his next start. And Tanner Houck was another guy. Geez, I dropped the ball here. I have them in my notes, and I didn't have their pages pre-done up. So Tanner Houck's another guy that, if I remember correctly, the results weren't the best, but he had some intriguing things going for him. Yeah, he had 5.4 ERA, 5 innings pitched, 5 strikeouts. But what he had going for him was the fact that yes, the velocity was down across the board, not good. We don't like to see velocity down, but he featured a new cutter. Yeah, that's what it was. The new cutter. And not only did he feature it, but he threw it 27.1% of the time. So not only is the cutter a new pitch for Tanner Houck, but is a pitch that he's already leaning on. And it got hit kind of hard. That's part of the issue. It got hit kind of hard, but he was still able to get a 33.3% whiff rate on a cutter. That's not bad. I'm just curious to see if we can get the velocity up. And he again, he struggled, but is it velocity induced? Well, is it something that will come around as the velocity improves? I don't know, but a guy I have my eye on, especially if the cutter can prove to be decent. He leaned on it heavily because if you look at the usage, it was strictly against lefties. So he gave himself a pitch to utilize against lefties there, and the slider he also utilized just fine against lefties, but the cutter was strictly against lefties that start. So maybe that's why the heavy usage. But we'll see. But it's one of those things where he obviously trusts it enough to utilize it that heavily day one. So maybe the cutter can improve, but he is obviously Tanner Houck utilized it heavily against lefties. Just something to keep in mind with him. And that is all my notes. I touched on at least 20 names or 20 and or situations, and that was kind of the goal. 30 minutes, perfect. Appreciate you guys watching, listening on the podcast. Oh, the Rays. Oh, let's talk about some posted lineups. I lied. If you're still listening, we'll talk some posted lineups. Why not? So is this today, the 5th? So we have the Rays lineup against the lefty, though. So Paredes batting third, normal. As expected, series and everyday player. I don't know if I mentioned, I think I mentioned him on the last stream, but he's a guy, power, speed, just needs to hit the ball. Margot, also against lefties, not surprising. How Ramirez, yeah, this is expected. Brandon Lau sits, yep, he's sitting against the lefty. Taylor Walls is playing way more than he probably should, but it is what it is. Yeah, this lineup also just kind of a pain to deal with. Madrigal's factoring the third base. Patrick Wisdom, Edwin Rios is like the odd man out. He's definitely playing the least. It's kind of what you're taking away from here. From the Reds, that was the Cubs, obviously, for those listening. The Reds, Friedel's batting second. He's not going anywhere. India's having a really strong start to the year. Love India. Stevenson's playing well every day. Jason Vossler's a name. We've seen him be relevant before. He's a lefty, so as long as Votto's out, Vossler can continue getting run, especially against righties. Steer, third base every day. Barrero is playing a lot more than I expected, just because I thought Newman was going to be the guy there, just because they went out and signed him. I think Newman and him are going to be platooning. I mean, Barrero we saw play center field against lefties, so it's not even, and it's weird because he's the righty, but they do get Newman in there against lefties. But Jose Barrero is a guy that's getting a lot of run right now. The Phillies goes back to see like they're not really playing Edmundo Sosa. That's why he's a very deep league, like just watch list guy, because the playing time isn't there right now. But we have seen Stott sit against lefties, I think, last couple games too. Jake Cave's been a regular, so Cave as the lefty probably has a strong side hold of that platoon situation. You also have with the Yankees, you have Cabrera's back in the lineup. He had a couple games off, but there's like a whole rotation going on. They have French Cordero, IKF, Hicks, all factoring into the outfield. It's a really weird situation. I don't think Cordero's going to be up long, or Hicks, or like someone's going to have one of those three are gone when Beta returns. But Cordero hit a couple hard hit balls. Volpe's not going to leave the 9 spot until he gets going, because we saw LeMahieu not in lineup, and it was actually Gleyber Torres leading off. So people were kind of hoping that Volpe might be able to sneak in some leadoff spot stuff. I don't think he's going to in the near future. Torres is off to a really good start. Couple steals, couple stolen bases. Rays Nats. Let's go. You already talked about that. This is another one of the situations where Matt Vierling's playing against righties all of a sudden. There's something there. Well, it's because they finally sat Miggy. They sat Miggy, and Vierling got a start against righties. That's the thing. Vierling and Carpenter were platooning to start the year, because when they face a righty, Carpenter plays as the lefty, but Miggy at DH holds back a spot in right field usually. But they're making it work today, and they're getting Vierling in there, and Vierling, we'll see what happens. Eloy was placed on the IL. What did I miss with Eloy? God, he can't stay healthy. I give up. Maybe I was wrong on him. He was one of my guys this year. I was all over him, and he's already on the IL. I don't understand what happened. I got to see what happened there. Let's see. Let's see if we can pull the news up here. Let's talk about that. This stream was supposed to end, but now I got to react because I'm really deflated. Jake Berger got called up in his place.
Every season is
I don't want to hear you. There we go. What's going on? Did they not? Okay, Bradish we'll talk about Bradish in a second. Bradish actually off to a really strong start yesterday. Got hit by a. What was the comebacker on Bradish? What happened? Right foot contusion. Okay, he'll just miss 2 starts. I'm not too worried about it. But what happened to Eloy? Did I miss the Eloy news in general? Because I would have led with that. Everyone knows I love Eloy Jimenez this year. Let's find that. Hamstring strain? What the heck happened? When did that? Oh my goodness. They did keep him out of the field. I don't know if it happened in the field. Let's see. April 4th. Let's go back to yesterday. Was he playing the field yesterday? Because if not, then I really give up. If he was, where's the White Sox lineup? They didn't play yesterday? What? So confused. Last time, okay, so he DH'd on Monday or the 3rd. Today's the 4th. What am I doing? Today's the 4th. It doesn't matter. Yeah, so he played DH yesterday. What the hell, man? Oh, all right. Well, now we know. He's that's aggravating. Thank you for letting me know, DVS. You saw, yeah, you were at the game? Okay. Apparently, according to the chat, which I appreciate this, DVS, Jimenez is expected to miss 2 to 3 weeks with a left hamstring strain. When did he do that? What the hell happened? Oh, God. Well, I'm already. This is why no one drafts Eloy. This is why I shouldn't have been all in on Eloy. I mean, it's only 2 or 3 weeks. It's not. He's not a drop or anything. But what the heck? He was DHing. He wasn't even in the field. I don't get it. The guy, I guess he just can't stay healthy. Let's get back to these lineups, though, shall we? The Marlins, another headache. Jesus Sanchez. I keep getting Jesus Sanchez. Here we go. They posted today. Wait, no. See, okay, I'm not crazy. He's the 5th. So what happened on the 4th? Did the White Sox not play yesterday? I swore every team played. No, I guess not. Oh, look at that. All right. Well, then he must have hurt himself the day before. The Marlins posted, this is a team that Jesus Sanchez is kind of getting the least amount of run, but it's still weird because you'll get Sanchez get a couple games. You'll have Brian De La Cruz get a couple games. Avisail Garcia plays the most out of the 3. A situation to avoid. Of the 3, Garcia is going to play the most, so probably him. Hampson at second base today with Birdie at shortstop. I think Birdie's about to get some added run, and we know what Birdie can do with playing time. He can steal a lot of bases. I would think that Birdie's an interesting name. The Twins, Buxton's back in the lineup today and leading off. So the one day that we saw Nick Gordon lead off might have been a fluke. However, it is against the lefty, and Farmer is in. We talked about how Farmer could be a weak side platoon option. Well, he's getting the weak side platoon over Gordon today. So that's something to keep note with Gordon. If Gordon's not going to play against lefties, which is weird as a righty, and especially if Solano is going to factor in. Now, Solano at first base makes sense because there's no Kirilloff, and Gallo is known to have lefty platoon issues in the past and overall struggles with lefties in general. So Solano playing first base in the short term is very likely to stick. Larnach sticking with the playing time, but they do lack outfield depth right now, so it's not really much of a surprise. However, he's starting off hot. They're probably just letting him run with the hot hand. And because right now, again, Nick Gordon could play, but I think Gordon's also due for a day off, considering I think he's played every single game to start the year. They have Jazz Chisholm back in the leadoff spot, but that's with Arias out. Wouldn't read too much into that. Fortes, I like him a lot. Segura's 6th, 7th now. Okay, he's following the line apparently. The Red Sox, Masataka Yoshida's hitting a lot of hard balls. Just a matter of seeing that raw power turn into game power, which we have seen a home run. Turner has played first base and does against lefties. Just a heads up there. Could gain some eligibility in about a month or so, maybe, give or take, depending on how many lefties they face and what format you play in. Verdugo leading off. Of course, he's having a strong start to the year, so that helps him stay there. We talked about this AAA lineup here. Let's talk about the White Sox real quick. The White Sox, we got word of Eloy. That should give Gavin Sheets some run, and then Berger probably him and Berger DH. And Platoon at DH, I would think, maybe. Is Berger's a righty, right? I forget which one he is. I'm going to look it up real quick. I don't want to give misinformation here. Big Berger I know he just hits the ball really. Yeah, he's a righty. I thought so. So he's a righty. So yeah, him and Sheets being lefty, could platoon there with Sheets getting the strong side. Obviously, Grandal will DH as well to help keep his bat line up while giving him days off behind the plate. Oscar Colas might move up in the order, give or take, but I think Moncada batting 4th, Andrew Vaughn batting 5th. What you're seeing here is what you should expect with Eloy out. I'm just still flabbergasted by the Eloy news. I shouldn't be surprised. I knew what I was getting myself into, but I didn't expect it to be so while DHing. Like, I'm sorry if he wasn't playing the field as much, so I was in, and now he's out. All right. All right, appreciate the heads up, DVS, on the help here. No other lineups are posted. We talked about a whole lot of stuff today. I'm going to get back to the content for the Patreon, so don't forget to check it out. Patreon.com/GTE Fantasy. What you hear is what I'm doing with write-ups every single day for them, pretty much for the most part right now, plus lineup stuff, plus all the other stuff. So appreciate those who subscribe, appreciate those who check out the Patreon, or obviously check out to the podcast as well. Until next time, maybe stream tomorrow. If not, it'll be this weekend or early next week. We'll talk soon.